Knowledge Exchange Violin has come back to the USA, and I arrived back in the Midwest the day before yesterday. First of all, to spend time with friends in Minnesota, but then to come back to the University of Wisconsin, River Falls, which has been one of the bases for the project over the past year and a half. Yesterday, I spent some time in the evening working with colleagues and students and interested musicians and locals on some of the more fundamental ideas which not only lie beneath this project, but everything that we do as musicians and artists and everything that we do as people. And the most important part of this for me is the idea that what humans excel at is collaboration. And the model of composer and performer is a stunning example of how effective that can be. So I told stories of my experience of collaboration, ranging from the right up to the minute, the collaboration which has been going on in the past couple of days since the Cambridge premiere of Robert Saxton's solo sonata. In the intervening hours after the premiere, he heard there new versions of the movements of the piece winged their way into my email. And then when I arrived here at River Falls, where I'm standing in a back alley here, the very helpful hotel staff enabled me to print out these new versions, afforded me scissors and scotch tape so I could start stitching together what he'd done and make me understand and be incredibly excited about his ability to reconfigure, recalibrate on one hearing. One of the amazing things about collaboration is it gives me the chance as an artist to witness the genius of my collaborating artists at work. And along with my own collaborations, I told the story of the collaboration which will always be for me the model of what I do, and that I witnessed at the time that I studied with Louis Krasner when I was a very young musician. And Krasner, of course, was the violinist who commissioned the Alban Berg Violin Concerto. And one of the stories, or one of the groups of stories he told me, was of the real detail of how he worked with Berg, the relationship between, for instance, improvisation and composition, which is absolutely fundamental to that, and how he enjoined me to understand how that should apply to my work with the material. I also talked about the importance of recognizing that our most important collaborators at any stage of our lives will be the people who are immediately next to us, the people that we have friendships and relationships with. And when you're young, they're young musicians alongside you. So I began by playing the very first solo piece, which the German composer Jörg Widmann wrote for me when we were both very young, and he was for a year studying clarinet with Charlie Neidig in New York City. And so this is a piece which is 30 years old, which means we can talk about what happens to a piece of art which has been new and comes into our hands and ears new, minted, and what happens to it over time. What is the model of development of our experience with new things as they find their way into who we are, our identity. And doing that, we can use the model of our experience, which things, objects, art objects, music which is new, changing over time, to look at the challenge of working with music of the past, which was new once, and we experienced it new for the first time. The obvious example is my experience of playing Bach has changed and metamorphosed since I first played unaccompanied Bach, or tried to, when I was 10 or 11. To finish with, a very, very intuitive young composer asked me, because I've been talking about the past, what the duty, as I saw it, or the job was, of a composer with regard to the future. And I have to say that was a great question and a difficult one. And it reminded me of the quote which George Rochberg used at the end of his book, The Aesthetics of Survival. So I tried to exhume that from my memory. And he talked about the duty of the artist and its relationship to beauty. And he used, as I remember, Robert Browning, and said that the job of the artist was to express those things which had laid burningly on the divine hand. And so I think it's always important, as that student pushed me to do, to make sure that we go from the practical right through to the fact that as people and as artists, it is our job to express those things which are difficult to express, which are challenging, which speak to really big questions, even when we might be standing absolutely freezing in a back alley in Wisconsin with starlings singing behind us.